Open it up for questions.
How's it been going, Robby? Month into spring ball, what's been the big emphasis for your group?
Just trying to get better every day. I think our guys do a really good job competing here. It's been fun to be a part of. We've done a lot of competitive drills and technique drills and stuff, and just all the guys on offense, defense, extremely bought in. So, we're just trying to get better every day.
Ryan said that we'd like to see Joe maybe add some hang time to his punts and maybe some distance as well. How do you guys actually work on that in practice?
Yeah, we do individual drills and stuff just like every other position does, and that's been a goal of ours too, to add a couple yards on his distance and hang. And hang's going to be the most important part to covering the punts too. So that's we work on it, just drop angles and that type of stuff. But yeah, we've been working with him on that. Joe does a great job.
You got a couple guys who are veterans who've come back that are kind of special teams aces. Stoker played a lot of special teams last year. He's played a lot of special teams. How nice is it to walk in here and know that you've got some veterans who know what it takes to do those kind of things and be good on special teams?
Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, it's always good to have veterans that can set the standard and show how it's done, and you can show their clips of them, doing it in games, and they can be the first one in your drills and stuff, and that's always helpful. And but yeah, there's the best players play on special teams here, which is obviously the culture's been set, and the expectation is your best players are on it, and everybody else is competing to find a spot. And one thing we say is if you're a starter on the punt team or the kickoff team or any of the core phases, you're a starter. There's 44 spots on the core four, and then you take away a kickoff guy, a snapper and a punter. That's 41 spots. That's 41 opportunities to start on this team. So that's our guys are super competitive in that, and it's been fun to watch.
Robby, as you were evaluating Ohio State last year, working in Illinois as a special teams guy, what did you see as the areas that you felt you could exploit then, but also how has that elevated your ability to improve it now?
Anytime you go into a new job, there's things that you're going to keep the same, and there's things you're going to try to maybe have your own fingerprint on. But I thought last year, obviously, going against Ohio State, they're very detailed, very well coached, played extremely hard, very physically tough. Obviously had a bunch of great athletes that could move and change direction. But like anything, you go into a new job, there's things you're going to keep the same, and then there's things you're going to try to change up. So it's kind of blending both, and it's been good.
Has there been a sense of like you can get this unit to get the same results that you've had elsewhere?
Yeah, the goal is to always try to elevate any place you're at, and that's always a challenge. And it's a competitive business, and it's a performance-based business, so it's like that with the players, it's like that with the coaches. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of things Ohio State's done extremely well, and no sense on changing some of the stuff. And some things you feel strongly about, maybe you can have your own fingerprint on. But I think the culture here is extremely good, especially in the kicking game. But it's a great culture, and Coach Day's in every meeting, and he speaks up, and he's very knowledgeable, and he's bought in, and he's got your back, and it's been fun to be a part of. The assistant coaches do a great job. Obviously there's importance of it from the top down.
How do you feel about the value of the kickoff return? It's kind of maybe gone down since the fair catch rule. Is there a place for it? Do you want there to be a place for it?
Well, hell yeah, you do. You don't want to wave the white flag, but yeah, you get less opportunities than you used to. Kickers are better, right? Especially in this league, you're going to play guys that are 80% touchbacks a lot of the time, so you're going to get less reps out of it. Doesn't mean it's any less important when you get an opportunity, and I would look at a return unit just like an offensive play. You get your best players the ball in space, you would say that's a successful offensive play. On kickoff return or punt return, that's every opportunity you get, or every play you get a chance to do that. You know what I mean? So you get to pick who's back there, and you don't necessarily get to pick where they kick it, but you get to pick who's back there, and you get an opportunity to put the ball in a dynamic player's hands, and why would you not want to take that?
Who are you picking to be back there?
We'll see. The good thing about here is you got a lot of good options. There's a lot of good players that have done it in games here. There's a lot of new guys, and there's a lot of good options. But at this point, I don't have a great feel.
Have you guys even done any kickoff yet?
Kickoff?
Yeah.
We've done competitive drills, and it's been good for us. So we've done a bunch of competitive drills and stuff like that. And coach is big on competing, so it's really good. Matchups, clear winner, clear loser, and we grade that stuff. And it's been good. We've done a bunch of competitive drills on that. We haven't lined up and done a full cover kickoff, but
Having coached David last year, you've got Connor in the room. What have you seen from Connor that maybe you can take from your past experience with an All Big Ten type of guy and bring to help Connor progress?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Connor's super talented. He had a great year last year, at Baylor, and both those guys, if you're asking me to compare them, both have a really good mindset. They're never too high, they're never too low. If you miss a kick, you're already forgot about it by the time you got a next opportunity. So both those got a good mindset. They're both super competitive, which is a big thing as well. And but no, both guys super talented, and we're excited about Connor. Obviously, having game experience is critical, and he did that last year at a high level and played really well. But the moment's not too big for Connor. You can tell he's got a good demeanor about it, and he's even keel, and he's done a good job.
And then from Dalton and Joe and Connor, the operation there,
Mm-hmm.
how have you seen that come along with two of those guys being new, but the constant being Joe?
Yeah, like you said, the constant's Joe. Joe's kind of leader of the room, and he does a great job with those guys, and he's a really good holder. And Dalton's a very good snapper. He's had experience. He was a starter at BYU. He's a starter at Central Florida. He's done it at a high level. Really, really good, really accurate snapper. Like consistently gives them laces on a field goal, gives the holder laces, so he doesn't have to spin it very often. And it's a trust factor for Connor. You got Joe, who's done it in games a long time here. You got Dalton, who started at 2 different Big 12 schools, and it's a good feeling for Connor knowing that operation is going to be right.
When you're looking at returners, what's kind of a balance between this guy can make a lot of big plays and we know this guy's going to really take care of the football?
Yeah, well, one thing we say on our return units is either our offense or our PAT team takes the field after this play, right? So that doesn't mean we're not going to be aggressive. That just means you got to be smart. And you got to have guys back there that make good decisions and have really good ball skills and are great communicators as well. Maybe a short punt or whatever, on a kickoff return, and there's communication that happens all over the place. You got to have guys with really good ball skills and really good communication skills, and that's first and foremost. And then you want to put your most dynamic guy back there. Hopefully that you got that same person wrapped into one, but it doesn't always play out like that.
What is your philosophy, I guess, on how aggression should factor into special teams when you obviously have much fewer plays than you would on offense and defense, and your margin for error is slim?
Yeah, just like in all aspects of football, you want to play to win the game, whether that means being aggressive or, sometimes there's a time and a space to say we just need the ball back, and there's a time and a place to say we're going to come after this one, So you just got to be smart about the situation, and mainly so is you just have to practice all those scenarios and put the right people in the right place to do it, and that's our job as coaches, is to figure out what guys can do to try to maximize their skill set, but also put them in position to where the right guys or the guys that if you're coming after a punt, or the guys that are going to come free and make good decisions, and you've practiced it and you feel good about that particular person, and so that's our job as coaches, to figure out what they can do and put them in positions to do it.
The success you guys had, I think it was 2 years ago, blocking kicks, you were one of the best teams in the country, I believe. Was that, in your mind, schematically driven? Was that just you had a couple of guys that particular year who were really good at it? Like what allowed that to happen?
It's a player-driven sport. The players are obviously more important than the coaches. So there's a lot more guys that can draw a block look on a piece of paper than kids that can go out and do it. So that's, I think that's the biggest part, is identifying who can do it and putting them in position to do it. And you don't need to make it any harder than that. And there's always scheming involved, and sometimes you're on the right end of that, and sometimes you're on the wrong end of that, and that's your job to get it fixed. But I think the players are always going to be most important. So figuring out who are your guys, what can they do best, what are their skill sets, and then your job is to put them in position to do that.
The recent rule change about the alignment and the eligible and ineligible, how does that? Are you as angry as other special teams coaches seem to be, and how will that impact things that you do?
I don't like it, but nobody, I don't have a say in it. It's just like anything else in life. You got to deal with it. So it's part of it.
Why don't you like it? Like, what does it impact?
The way, I think it takes away some creativity and some different looks, and it's just my opinion, but I just, I didn't think the play was broken. So to me, just officiate who's on, who's off the ball. You know what I mean? And I know there's some gray area looks, but it's hey, the rule's in place. So the rules are the rules. Doesn't matter what you think. You just got to go execute and put your players in position to win, and that's everybody in the country. And it's not like the rules are just that for Ohio State; it's that for everybody. So it is what it is. Is it the biggest deal in the world? No. Did I like it? No. But it is what it is. So we're going to play with it, and so is everybody else in the country. And it's our job to put them in position to be successful. So a little bit different. Couple wrinkles you might not be as good anymore, but it is what it is.
You were asked before about kickoffs. Do you like the college kickoff rule? Do you like what the NFL does? Kind of what's your stance on that?
I like the college kickoff rule. I think it's what I've known. It's what I've grown up with. I've never obviously coached in the NFL, so. But the one thing I would say is the NFL, you're at least getting kickoff returns now. Everybody had a kicker. Everybody's blasting out of the back of the end zone. So I think it probably saved the play at the professional level. You know what I mean? And there's less injury risk. But I like the college game rule. But if it ever changes the NFL game, we'll be ready.
You mentioned 44 opportunities for guys in terms of starters. How much depth do you need to have, given one of those guys could be called on to do something else that maybe takes them off special teams for a play or for a game or whatnot?
Yeah, you always got to have a depth, and you always got to have guys ready to roll. And in my opinion, if you can have a true 3 deep of guys that are capable, then you're rolling. You should feel really good about that. So, but yeah, I mean that's part of your job as a coach, is to adjust and get guys ready. And how many times you go into a game and say these are our starters on all our core units, and that stays that way throughout the whole game? Almost never. You know what I mean? So it's part of your job. It's part of your job. And you got to get everybody ready, and and it's I think their readiness to play and being prepared is a reflection of how well you've prepared them. And I think that's a big part of the job. And I think a big part of the job of the special teams coordinator is to help develop the roster. It doesn't mean you're playing with the worst guys on the roster out there on kickoff, but I mean, you're going to have starters on some, but the 2s and 3s are going to be a huge part of what you do. So I think it's your job, and it's something I take a tremendous amount of pride in, is trying to develop guys fundamentally and help and get them ready to play. And you see it, there's a huge correlation between guys, especially young guys that are core teams guys, and then later on in their career become good offensive and defensive players. And sometimes that can be a different skill set, right? Like there might be a guy that's, a better player on the punt team than this linebacker, but that linebacker is a better linebacker. So it's a different skill set at times, but most of the time it correlates. You're a good young player, you're covering kicks, you're on teams, you're a tough kid, and you're doing all those roles. It just shows that you're ready for that next step.
Any of those young names you want to share with us that are standing out for you right now?
Sure, there's too many to count, but yeah, the thing I like about here is we do a bunch of competitive drills in every phase, offense, defense. So like my family's not here yet, so at night I watch all the offensive and defensive clips and all the competitive drills, and I have a notebook of guys that I think in different skill sets. But the good thing is you got no shortage of dependable guys that can run and hit. You got a lot. We practice really physical here, and you see that it shows up in all 3 phases. And you got a lot of competitive drills. You got a lot of film to watch and be able to evaluate guys. But I think, to answer your question, there's we have enough depth here to be super successful, and that's our job to get them right.
How did you become so, passionate about special teams? I think there are some guys who might look at a special teams coordinator job as a stepping stone to something else, and other guys who make a career out of it and are really good at it. And I don't know which way you do it, but I'm just curious, how you ended up in this spot and why it matters so much to you.
Yeah, well, how I ended up there, so, I played small college football, and I wasn't very good. I barely played, in college, and I knew I wanted to coach, and I wanted to do college, and, so for 1 year out of college, I did high school, and I kept trying to get into college coaching, and a guy student taught for named Dan Joyner played at Central Missouri for Coach Fritz, Coach Willie Fritz, who's the head coach at Houston. And he had just got the Sam Houston job and was looking for people. So Coach Joyner helped me get on with Coach Fritz, and it was kind of a volunteer opportunity at first. And Coach, the majority of his career, has ran the special teams, and he was running the special teams at Sam Houston as the head coach, and I was his assistant. I was his help. And I knew nothing about it going in, and, he took me under his wing and, taught me 90% of what I know. So I'd say I owe my career to Coach Fritz. I love him. He's awesome human, awesome football coach, but that's how I got started in it, and I was with him for 4 years and kind of moved on, and those are just kind of the jobs I've gotten, along the way. I've been a tight ends coach or, a nickels coach or whatever the case may be, and it's all important. You know, the thing I love about special teams is that you're in front of the team. You know, outside of the head coach and the strength coach, you're probably in front of the team more than anybody else. So I think that's something I really enjoy, because I feel like, you know, and I'm working on it here. I've been here a couple months. I feel like I got good relationships with a lot of the kids, not all of them yet. That's my job to get there. I think that's a super important part of it, and it's something I take a lot of pride in, something that's really important to be successful in this job. And it's something I enjoy doing too. And, you know, I think that's something I really like is, you know, the relationships with the rest of the team. And sometimes you're just a position coach. You might have it, or maybe you just have it with your position, but it's awesome. You know, I got an office kind of where there's a lot of traffic, foot traffic, which is awesome. I love it. So I probably have, you know, 34-minute or 2-minute conversations every day with kids, and it's awesome. You know, I love it, and getting to know these guys. And, you know, it's obviously been a lot easier for me to learn names since we've been in jerseys in spring, and I can associate that. But now I'm starting to put a name with a face. I probably have about 80% of the team down. You know, I got to work on some of the D linemen. I'm struggling there with names and faces, but, you know, it's been great. That's something I really enjoy about being on special teams. I'm passionate about it, just the relationships with the team, and I think you can impact a game. You know, that's something that's exciting to me.
Can you talk about why? Last couple. Can you talk about why specifically in your role as special teams coordinator, player relationships are so vital to success?
Well, I think it's vital in any position. If you're a position coach, right, you gotta show your players that you're competent, can make them better, but also you gotta show them you care about them. And that's not just lip service. That's over time. Those genuine relationships take time. You know, so I think that's you know, the relationships is such a big piece of that, because, you know, I'm not arrogant enough to think that guys sign their scholarship papers to come be on the punt team, you know, or come cover kicks. It's part of it. They're going to be asked to do that, but, you know, you got to, you know, and they're bought in anyway, you know, but I think it just helps if they know you care about them and they got a relationship with you, and that always helps you, like, challenging people in a good way, you know. And it's hard to challenge somebody, or it's hard to coach somebody if they don't know who you are, and you're like, who is this guy yelling at me? You know what I mean? So I think it's something that's extremely critical in my opinion.
Cool.
Appreciate you guys.